Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of 90 Stories for 90 Years. My name is Mary Osborne, and I serve as the coordinator for Fraternity and Sorority Life here at DePaul. We have Nya Brooks with us today to chat with us about her experience in Lambda Theta Alpha Latin Sorority Incorporated. Just so those of you who might be new know, 90 Stories for 90 Years is our campaign to tell the story of fraternity and sorority life at DePaul over the past 90 years as we celebrate our 90th academic year on campus. So, Nya, we're so excited to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining.
I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. Well, we'll just go ahead and get started and dive right in. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone, name, hometown, degrees, all of the fun things, any leadership positions you held while you were in the chapter?
Yeah, so I'm Nya Brooks, class of 2014 graduate from the College of Communication. I specifically studied communication and media and women's and gender studies, and I'm from the South Suburbs, University Park, for those of you who are familiar with the Chicagoland area. And while I was at DePaul, within my sorority, I served as the public relations chair, being in charge of the flyers and social media. I was also part of the FSL week. So during like the anti-hazing week, I'm not sure if you all still have that. I was part of that, and just being a liaison between all of the Greek life and my specific sorority chapter.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. So, since you graduated in 2014, maybe tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
Oh, yes, so many great things. So, over the past, let's do some math, for what, 7 years. Gosh, time
I
flies.
know.
Immediately after undergrad, I did an AmeriCorps postgrad service program where I worked with middle school age girls, and then over the course of the 7 years continuing to mentor high school girls. And right now I am on staff for Miss Black International Ambassador. It's a global pageant to empower Black women all over the world who are leaders in their community. So currently helping the contestants prepare for our international pageant week in the Bahamas in June. So I just so grateful that I get to use my degree in women's studies as well as my transferable skills in communication to help women all over the world.
Yeah, that's absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I really loved right before we hopped on for the interview, you were sharing about how you all get to have an in-person pageant this year, which is super cool. And I'm really excited for you and for the contestants to get to experience that. So thanks for telling us. So tell me, we're going to kind of go back to when you were an undergrad student. Why did you decide to join a sorority, and what specifically drew you to Lambda Theta Alpha?
Oh gosh, it was such a whole journey. So initially, with my first year in college, I knew I wanted to join a sorority because who doesn't? Like, because of the things that we see on TV and the images that we see. And I knew that I wanted to be involved on campus. So I joined my sorority my junior year in college, fall 2012. And it was absolutely amazing. I specifically chose Lambda Theta Alpha for two reasons. One, because as a women's studies major, I really loved how the sorority's mission focuses on empowerment of the universal woman. And I really wanted an organization that focused on women empowerment. Of course, all sororities empower women, but Lambda Theta Alpha specifically said that. But two, which is more important, is how they make me feel. And I remember doing all my Greek research, going to events, talking to so many people, looking at websites, and people would tell me, you'll know, you'll know, you'll know. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. I need a concrete answer. But whenever I would go to an LTA event, it was always smiles and hugs, like, oh my gosh, it's Nya. And now, almost 8 to 9 years later, it's still the same way. Like, sisters are always excited to see me, always like hugging and just saying, hey Nya, how's it going? Haven't seen you in forever. So just that family, that loving feeling I get from LTA is what stood out.
Yeah. That's so wonderful. And I think that it sounds really silly sometimes to be like, oh, you'll get this feeling. But I mean, that's how you build most relationships anyways, right? Like there's a connection between you and the other person. And so it kind of makes sense that when you join a, fraternity or a sorority, that would be a similar feeling that you would get. But it really does kind of sound like a little fluffy whenever you very first say, oh, you'll know, like you'll get a feeling. but that really is how it happens. I mean, and that's how you build relationships in like everyday life too. So yeah, I think it makes sense. And I totally get that. I also remember people telling me that whenever I joined in undergrad, and I was like, are you sure like about this? But yeah, I totally agree that feeling that you get and that sense of belonging and that like hominess and family, like you mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of on that note, what does sisterhood mean to you, and what has Lambda Theta Alpha taught you about sisterhood?
Oh man, the one thing that Lambda Theta Alpha taught me with sisterhood is that you show people you love them, you just don't say it. And sisterhood means, what it means to me is that you show up in the good times and the bad times. I am so grateful for Lambda Theta Alpha because so many times they have showered me with love. I remember when I moved to DC for an internship. Right before I moved, this was about a yearish or two after I graduated. They threw me a surprise going away party at a local restaurant. Oh, so
Aw.
amazing. Other things that they've done, like just birthday love. When I experienced death in my family, they came to my funerals, inviting me to so many events, just checking in on me. So that's what sisterhood is. It's just always not only showering people with love, but just making them feel special and wanted and remembering them, like never forgetting your sister.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And I think that it kind of ties with, the reason you joined a sorority, you felt that familial bond, and for them to really carry that out through your experience is such a powerful and kind of like life-changing way that I think particularly sororities like impact college students and continue to impact them after they've graduated. You also mentioned before that LTA has kept you connected to DePaul. Would you mind telling me a little bit more about that as well?
Yes, so recently, back in 2019, Epsilon Delta celebrated their 10-year anniversary of being on DePaul's campus. So I was able to be part of the banquet planning committee. So helping fundraise, promoting the banquet, inviting sisters from all the 10 years of Epsilon Delta, and then right now participating in events, going back. Because what I love about my sorority specifically, and this is common for many Greek life organizations, is that once you're a member, you're always a member. Like we
Mhm.
may graduate from DePaul, but LTA is a lifetime commitment. So right now, I'm definitely being present with my chapter. I recently attended a sexual assault awareness workshop, which was
Mhm.
absolutely amazing. So yeah, just being present, and I think it's super important for alum to come back to their organizations because the whole
Mhm.
purpose of Greek life is to graduate, or college in general is to graduate, become a leader. So when you
Mhm.
come back as an alum, you're showing future and potential members like, no, this is bigger than some club, us partying. No. When you join this organization, we're going to help you graduate. We're going to help you have professional skills. This is what you can become. So that's why I always come back to LTA events, to show future members like, no, this is how we do it. This is type of leader you can mold and become.
Yeah, I love that. I love that kind of like role modeling, coming back as an alum and role modeling like what the LTA experience is like. And I think but when you graduate, you have all these skills and things that you've developed, and coming back and like reteaching the younger members of the chapter, like how to get to that point is such an important part and so unique to fraternities and sororities. I think that that's one of the coolest part of the fraternity and sorority experience is that alumni connection that then you get to really help build the next generation of leaders in the sorority. So thank you for sharing all that. And kind of in that path, who in the sorority, or are there any alumni in the sorority that made an impact on you or continue to make an impact on you during your time with LTA?
You're not gonna make me cry. No, my eyeballs are sweating right now.
I love
Hands.
that. My eyeballs are sweating.
I'm a Cardi B fan. I'm an emotional gangster. Hands down. Her name is Nadine Gonzalez. She was our line one. So basically she joined a year or so after the chapter was developed. Yeah. Greek time and real time vary. Greek time is
Yeah.
so faster. But
Right.
she was the first group that joined Epsilon Delta after it was established. And she is super special to me because people don't believe it when I tell them I played hard to get when LTA was on my like part of recruiting. Um, that's my niece. So when I was looking through Greek life, I was playing hard to get. LTA was not on my radar. And this sister, Nadine Gonzalez, she played a super integral role with me finding my sorority, because she just showed me what it truly meant to build a relationship. Like, she was patient with me, even though I was like, no, I do not want to join a sorority. I have no business being part of a Latina sorority. She was just like, hey, come out to this event. Hi, Nya, how's it going? And she just never gave up on me. She just always showed interest. And I remember it was a whole year later. It was my sophomore year in college, and she was like, hey, I remember you from last year. And at that moment, that's what made me realize, like, this might be the route I need to go to, because unfortunately we all have experienced it. Some Greeks are very arrogant, and they treat their interested members as though like they're doing them a favor by allowing you to join their organization. That was never the case with Nadine. She treated me like a person. She, of course, like promoted LTA and let me know about it, but she made me feel like a person with dignity and integrity. So it's still, to this day, we're friends. It's been 10 years, 10, almost 11 years since we've known each other, and we're still tight. We're still tight. Got that passion, got that sisterhood, got that love.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned that, like, sometimes she didn't even bring up LTA. Like, it was just about you all making a connection. And I think that can be one of the more, I feel like I say powerful a lot, but I do think that when we think about getting people interested in our organizations, and I know oftentimes we hear the phrase like, oh, we don't recruit, but you don't have to be actively recruiting to be getting people interested in your chapter experience or even in you as a person. And I think that Nadine really it sounds like Nadine really embodied that mentality of like, you're a human, like I want to get to know you as a human. And then once I know you as a human, I know that you'll be a good fit for my organization. And that's a really cool like story to hear you tell, and to hear you talk about how it started out really as a friendship and then became like more like family, like the fraternity and sorority experience allows for.
Yes, and then also to the point of recruiting, necessarily you don't have to say join my club, join my sorority, join my fraternity. Another thing that helped me choose LTA was the presence, like seeing LTAs on campus, repping their letters, and not just that, but seeing the members be part of other extracurricular activities. So you don't necessarily your actions, your presence on campus should speak louder than you handing them a flyer and say join my organization, because people pay attention. Like, oh, they're on that, they're the president of FGA. Oh snap, they're a McNair scholar. Oh, they working at missions. Like, that will definitely stand out. And that was something that I paid attention to. Like, wow, they're involved with campus activities like me. We're what's the word I'm looking for? We're the same level, we have the same wavelength of thinking. There we go.
Yeah, and like the same interests and like what you're aspiring to be on campus and things like that. Like, you can tell the orgs that really put in the time and energy to be active and involved on campus. If that's what you want to be, then you need to look for those people, find those people, and figure out what orgs they're a part of, for sure. Yes, yes.
You're preaching, Mary. You're preaching.
I know. I feel like I'm like talking to the choir right now, because yeah, I feel like you're like, yes, this is exactly. But I do think that that's a very true statement, and I love that you kind of like wrapped up that conversation in that way. Like, absolutely. So kind of, I mean, you were really like sailing through these questions and giving me good content to like link to the next question, because the next question is, what advice would you give to someone who's interested in joining a fraternity or sorority at DePaul? What words of wisdom do you have for them?
So I like to compare Greek life to dating. So for example, think about the first time you had a crush on someone, you dated someone. Would you marry that person? No, like, ooh, child, the trauma, like the bad memories, like, ooh, child, can I get a reboot? So treat Greek life the same. Do, like, until you're part of an organization, you're single. So play the field, go to all the events, ask all the questions, look at the websites, pay attention to their presence, not just what they tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be confined to what you see or what's pretty, because if you just choose an organization because the parties are fun, they're good looking people, I like their colors, that's the equivalent of choosing a romantic partner just because, oh, they fine and they got some nice hair and they got some abs. Like, no, choose an organization where you all have the same values, you all can get along. Like, do you see yourself in the same way? Because not only is it a sisterhood, brotherhood, familyhood, y'all are doing business. Because yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we having fun, we love each other, but remember, Greek life is also a business and organization, and you need to be able to work with people. You ain't gotta love them, but you got to be
Mm-hmm.
able to work with them. So just take the time, do your research. And I used to hate that word, like, what is research? But research is just basically look around, go to events, pay attention to how they treat you, how they treat each other. Um, and just don't join the first thing that you see. Take your time, because
Mm-hmm.
you can always speed up, but you can't go back in time. And yeah, it's a lifetime commitment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. That not to like shade any of the other interviews that I've done, but that might be some of the best advice that I've heard given to potential members, because I think that so often, like, we're really quick to be interested in fraternities and sororities, and sometimes that doesn't always like lend its hand to us finding the best fit of organization. So I absolutely loved your advice. I think that that's so critical to the experience. So thank you so much. Well, I mean, we are running out of time and we are on our last question. I know, right? This has
It's
been
so
so
much
fun.
fun. We're gonna hang out after this.
Yeah, for real. Well, tell me, what is your favorite memory from being a member of your organization?
Oh my gosh, hands down. So, my senior year in college, I competed in my first on campus pageant, had no pageant experience whatsoever. And I believe in the universe and things happening for a reason. So the same day of the pageant, I'm at family's house.
You're totally fine.
Super auntie in the
Right.
house. But what happened was the same day of the pageant, there was like a regional area sorority meeting. So all my sisters, not just from DePaul, but like sisters from Lewis, UIC, Loyola, they were all on DePaul's campus coincidentally. So after the meeting, surprise, they showed up to the pageant, and I was on stage, and hot mess city, I was shaking, I tripped on my heel. It was just woo child. I thought I was gonna lose. But the reason I won, hands down, of course I did a little bit of preparation, but because my sorority sisters were like wilding in the audience, cheering me on, they made a big sign for me. It was their encouragement and their cheering me on in the audience that helped me continue on with the pageant. And I actually won the title. And
Yes.
yeah. So I was like,
Speaking of sweaty eyes, man.
yes. It was like,
Oh
ah!
my
And then they
goodness.
just rushed the stage. They were like, no! It was just,
Oh my goodness.
and that meant so much to me. One, because I
Yeah.
never won first place for anything. Like, I grew up in like the participation era, like, oh, you get a trophy because you participated, or anyone can win first place. But never have I ever won first place for something. But two, I grew up as a lame in high school. Like, didn't have that many friends. You hear the noise in the background. My bad, family.
You okay?
But I never had that many friends in high school. So the fact that people were there to like love on me, I was just like, this is, oh my gosh, this is like so Disney Channel. Sweet eyeballs again. So yeah, hands down, favorite memory, them showing up for my pageant.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And so were there members there from like other chapters, or members that you had never met before too, that were there like cheering you on?
Oh no, I knew everybody because
Oh,
when I
okay.
was an undergrad, I traveled to different chapters, and that was another reason I joined
Gotcha.
LTA, is because it's a national sorority. National sorority, we're all over. But no, I knew all the sisters for the most part. Yeah, because I would go to other chapters too, because I'm big on inter-chapter relationships. Like, yeah, DePaul's my home, but I went to Northwestern, went to Western, U of I, been to some everywhere. So people knew me, I knew my sisters, the whole shebang.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, that's such a great story to end on. Oh my goodness. I loved it. That's so cool. And it's like a very full circle moment, right? Like your first pageant, and now you're also like helping women accomplish their own pageantry goals. Like that's so full circle. I love it. I freaking love it. All right. Well, Nya, thank you again so much for doing this. I appreciate it so much. I'm sure that your LTA sisters will be so happy to watch this interview and hear about your experience. For those of you all out there, we still have many more stories to tell, so make sure that you tune in the future to our 90 Stories interviews, and we will see you all later. Bye.
Bye.